Hi, Herky. What you doing? What you doing? Are you splooting? Are you splooting like a good girl?
Lala is so cute.
Mom!
When she saw you, she was like,
Hello, Milton! Hi guys, welcome back to quarantine vlog day 9. And for today's video, I wanted to do something a bit different than vlogging all day. I'm going to sit down and talk about a topic that a lot of you have been asking about. And that is how to introduce a dog to an older dog. Like, what is it like to have 2 dogs instead of 1? How you introduce a younger dog to an older dog, etc. So although I think I talked about this subject in a few videos, maybe I didn't go really in depth, and maybe I didn't talk about specifically how to introduce a puppy to an older dog. So we're going to go through that together today. And of course, everything that I'm going to be talking about is based on my personal experience. It's what we did. It might not work for everybody and for every dog, but this is what we did. This is what worked for us as well as it worked. So I'm going to share with you just our experience. Hi, you're so sweet. So I'm going to first talk about the difference between having 1 dog versus 2, why we decided to get a second one, and then I will go into how we introduced Milton to Herky, their relationship, and also just our experience in general. So when I first got Herky, it really wasn't in my mind that I was going to get a second one. I never really thought about it until like a little bit later. We got Milton 2 years after we got Herky, so things evolved pretty quickly, and I got set in my mind of getting a second one pretty early on, I would say. A lot of people decide to get a second dog just to keep the first dog company, but I personally wanted to get another one just because I was obsessed with the breed, so it was more for me than it was for Herky. The reason why I didn't get a puppy for Herky is because I was already with Herky all the time. At that time, I was still in bar school and I was just studying. I was still in law school basically, so I wasn't really concerned about her spending a lot of time alone because I didn't have full days of classes and I was able to spend a lot of time with her. So my reasons for getting a dog was really more selfish. It was for me. I wanted a second dog, so I got a second dog. Now, a lot of people do get another one to keep their dog company, and I did hear that there is a difference, and this might be different for different breeds other than Cavaliers, but I did hear that when you get an opposite sex than the current dog that you have, it might go better. But as you know, I just prefer having females, so I decided to go with 2 females. Usually what I hear works the best is when you first have a male and then you add a female. That relationship usually goes super well, but of course it can depend. Female Cavaliers tend to be a bit sassier, they're more dominant, they have more not more personality, but they're more territorial and they're much sassier than the males. So they tend to be a bit more loud when it comes to having another female around. And I feel like that's what happened having Herky and Milton. Like, yes, they get along. Like, you see Milton ask to go in here. Milton always is cuddling with Herky. But Milton is also the one that snaps at Herky all the time, like you saw in one of our previous videos. She snaps at Herky like all the time. She's very possessive of food and toys. She's very territorial, and that usually happens more with females than males. So the relationship is very like a true love-hate relationship. Like Herky, I feel like she was thriving as an only child, and I do feel bad for her to add another dog, and she doesn't have as much attention, granted, because there's another dog. But she was perfectly happy just by herself, and I don't feel like it makes a difference in her life that Milton is there. On the opposite side, I feel like Milton being the second dog, she's always had Herky in her life. So I feel like she's a bit more destabilized when Herky isn't there. I don't know if you remember in December, but we were sort of letting them have alone time. Like Andy would go run errands with one and then I would stay home with another just to have them have a bit more distance. And I feel like Herky did not mind at all that Milton wasn't there. But Milton was a bit more destabilized at first when Herky wasn't there. And so that's the true love-hate relationship that they have. Like Milton is super, super clingy onto Herky, But at the same time, she also snaps at Herky all the time. So it's a weird relationship, but you know, I feel like they get along overall. But one thing that I find is really sad, and if you have two dogs, let me know if this is normal. They don't play anymore. Like, they used to play a lot when Milton was a puppy, obviously, but ever since Milton is like maybe 2 years old, they just don't play anymore. I don't know if it's because Cavaliers get less playful, if they're just so used to being together that it's not fun anymore, that there's no novelty factor, that they get so blah about, like, you know, it's like dogs don't get excited in their house anymore and they only get excited when they're outside. I feel like it's that sort of thing. The girls get much more excited when they're outdoors than when they're indoors, of course. So maybe it's the same thing, like they just don't play anymore and I feel really bad. Or maybe Herky's getting older, she's less playful, I don't know. But that's something that I find is really sad. I do see a lot of Cavaliers still on Instagram that play together and I think it's so sweet. I wish the girls did that. I really do. So overall, the big difference between having one versus two dogs is it's a lot more work, honestly. Like when we had, let's say, Herky alone for the whole day when Milton was getting her tooth extracted at the vet, it was the easiest thing ever. And then I always told myself it's so easy to have two dogs. When you walk one dog, you just add another one. Or when you feed the dog, you just feed another one. But it is a lot more work. I noticed that when we were just walking Herky, it was so much easier because you only have to supervise one. You don't have to supervise two. And so having two is definitely more work. You do have double the cleaning to do, double the feeding, double the walking and everything. So it is a lot of work, a lot of added expenses, as I mentioned before. But overall, it's just so much fun. Like, I love having two. You just have so much love and it's so much fun. Okay, so now on to the juicy, the meat of the subject, if we can call it that. So how did we introduce Milton to Herky? Well, we didn't meet Milton before bringing her home. So the day we went to get her is the day we brought her home. And of course, Herky went with us. And she really seemed to not care when we were there at the breeder's house. That's also the breeder where Herky comes from. So I don't know if she recognized the place, but she was just very nonchalant. She was just like sniffing around, doing her own thing, and everything was fine. But then when I forced them to pose together for our first family photo here, if you will, she was sort of sniffing Milton and like, what are you doing? Like, what are you? Then of course, Milton was always so obsessed with Herky. She started like wanting to play with Herky, running after Herky and everything. And Herky was just very confused. And then when we brought her home, she was really like, what is happening right now? And I feel like although Herky was very curious, she was trying to establish dominance too. So the way that we made Herky understand that Milton is coming home with us is we would feed them together all the time. One of the first things we did when we got home is to have them have a meal together. So I would feed Herky and Milton at the same time, but giving the food to Herky first. So then Milton would understand that Herky's the boss, sort of thing. And then Herky's the elderly and that she doesn't feel like she's being replaced. And walking them together, doing all those things in a pack so that they feel like they're the same part of the family. Of course, every time I would put them like in the same room together and getting Herky used to Milton, I would hold Milton, pet Milton, and have Herky sniff Milton so that she understands that Milton is mine and that she is now part of our family, of our pack, if you will. It definitely took a lot of time, but I always feel like Herky was always a bit reluctant with Milton and she wasn't that happy that Milton was there, which circles back to the point that Herky was very happy as an only child. And then Milton was always crate trained when she was a puppy. So the first night we put Milton in the crate for her to sleep. And just so Herky didn't feel left out and alone and being replaced, we started letting Herky sleep on the bed with us. And so that's a very important thing when you have two dogs, is to always make your older one feel like they're special and that they're still your firstborn, because they might feel very insecure and very destabilized at the fact that there's another person in the life right now. So you want to make them feel very secure, make them feel special, maybe do some one-on-one activities with them, always feed them first, let them lead when they're on walks, just do little things like that so that they know that they're still your special one. And then when Milton got a bit older and that they got more used to each other, that they started playing together and everything, it was very important to me to make them bond a bit more. So that's the moment where I would let Herky sleep in a playpen, and then Milton's crate was in there. So I made them sleep together so that they feel like they're part of the same family. And then eventually we also started letting Milton sleep out of her crate and just in the playpen with Herky, so that again they sort of form a bond together. And so as you can see, Milton is just super obsessed with Herky all the time. She always wants to be with Herky. Herky, although she prefers to be alone, but I don't know if that's just Herky being independent in general or Herky being independent with Milton, if you know what I mean. So that would be my pointers for introducing a young puppy to an older dog. Just always make your older one feel special. Introduce your puppy to your older dog very gently if you feel like there's resistance. Do it slowly. Always hold the puppy and make your dog understand that this is yours and that you are introducing this puppy to the pack. And always make both of them feel as special as possible and make them feel integrated as a family. Do activities like walking and playing, everything together so that there's that feeling of unity. So yeah, if you guys have any other tips, leave them below. How did you introduce your younger puppy to your older dog? How did that go? How long did it take, etc.? We get this question a lot, so just make sure that you're patient. It can take more time, and I do think that the older your dog is, the more time it's going to take for him or her to get used to a puppy. So if you're thinking of getting a second one, the earlier you do it, the better. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is going to be it for today's vlog. Thank you for following along our quarantine series, and I hope you enjoy. We're almost at the end of it, and thank you for following along and being here with us during this period. Again, if you're new to this series, this is our post-travel mandatory quarantine. Is 14 days, and today is day 9. So we're almost there, and we really appreciate your support so far. Don't forget to like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Yeah, say bye. Say bye. Mm-hmm. Okay, before we sign out, I wanted to show you quickly an update on the trick that the girls learned. So we're gonna show you the progress of Sit Pretty, which I'm very glad about. And a little trick if you're afraid that your dog is gonna eat too much treats or too much calories during this quarantine time, I suggest vegetables. I have cut up green beans here, and although they're not as enticing as other treats, it lightens the calories. Okay. Sit pretty. Look at that, guys. Good girl. Sit pretty. Good girl. So thank you for all the comments regarding this trick. I do think that Milton's body weight distribution makes it easier for her to learn this trick. Even if you have a large dog, I feel like the body composition can be different. Even some of our subscribers confirm that, so it's easier for Milton to learn it. Herky. Herky. Here. Good girl. Ideally, you would just do this with one dog, of course. Good, Herky. Good girl. Milton's turn. No, over here. Sit. Come here. Here. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. That's very good. So we've been practicing these 2 tricks a bit every day, and I think like it's going well. You just want to keep refreshing your dog's memory when you're teaching new tricks. So that's it for now.